Hello there, Brick Fanatics. I have got a real treat to show you today. This is Harbormaster's Office, one of the upcoming Series 3 BrickLink Designer Program sets that are available for pre-order as of the week after this video releases. I've got to say, I absolutely adore these BrickLink Designer Program sets. I think the excitement that I had for this showing up far outweighs anything else that I've had in Lego this year. I've got to just, it's absolutely gorgeous. And going off of the experience that I had with the Ominous Isle Lego set from Series 2 of BrickLink Designer Program, I absolutely knew that I was going to have a real treat here. Something that is so completely different to anything else you get from Lego, but something that is just so well thought out and absolutely gorgeous and fun to build while being challenging and interesting. So I was really excited, more so than anything else I've had this year, to get my hands on this, and I have to say it's absolutely delivered. I've got part of Ominous Isle here, and I have to pay my penance and apologize for the state of it, because this is only part of it, the rest of it is on the shelf. But you'll notice that the top tower is missing. I don't know what happened. I mentioned in my review of the set that I felt like there were parts of this that were a little bit fragile compared to most Lego sets, where I think detail and intricate, interesting build techniques have been used over using, for example, more sturdy construction methods that might mean that it stays in piece a little bit better. But I was not expecting that, like a few days after I finished a week after I finished the review for the set, it had just been sat on my desk, and I came in and noticed that the top of the tower was just missing. And I have to assume that somebody else in the house had just come into the office and accidentally brushed against it and just taken off the top of the tower, but I've never found those missing pieces. And there's a part of me that thinks that maybe somebody just looked at it funny and it just went poof, because this is a somewhat fragile build. And I genuinely feel bad about it not being pristine, because this set is so gorgeous and so interesting and so fun to look at that I feel like I've done a disservice to the entire Lego fan community by allowing it to be in some way tarnished, and I apologize. But I just really wanted to emphasize how much I enjoyed this build, and how much as a result I was looking forward to getting my hands on another BrickLink Designer Program set, because if you just watch that initial review you might think that I'm a little bit mixed on it, and the honest truth is I adore it. I think it is absolutely brilliant. I just want people to know going into these that you're getting something that is a very different Lego experience to what you would get from a standard Lego set. Just to go over things again, the way that these BrickLink Designer Program sets work is that it's very similar to Lego Ideas, in that Lego fans submit their own design ideas and then people vote on them, and then the cream of the crop that can get approval from the Lego group are chosen to be actually put into production. But what's different is that, for one thing, these are very limited run. There are only 10,000 of them maximum made. And the other thing is, instead of them being on store shelves, you have to pre-order them. You have to essentially crowdfund them. Despite the Lego group having a lot of money and being able to fund itself in a lot of cases, these crowdfunding efforts are made so that the Lego group knows exactly how much interest, I guess, there is in a particular design, and so that they don't over manufacture any of these small run sets. So there are not going to be a lot of these BrickLink Designer Program sets available, because a lot of them hit that 10,000 limit, the maximum number that the Lego group will produce, and then there are no more made, and so you miss out on the chance to get them. It's just worth you being aware that if you want a set like this one, like Harbormaster's Office, or any of the other cool sets that are going up for pre-order, you have to be quick about getting them, because they will disappear very quickly. Some of them, especially any it seems that are castle related, tend to sell out exceptionally quickly, where I think the Lego group has just not necessarily quite figured out how much demand there is actually for new castle sets. And so you need to be very quick off the mark if you actually want to purchase some of these BrickLink Designer sets. Others of them kind of languish for a while and kind of slowly trickle up in numbers and don't quite make it to that 10,000 mark, but you are going to be having a bit of a gamble if you leave it a little bit too late to purchase some of these. Now, as mentioned, I think that these sets are absolutely brilliant because the other big difference that you get with these as opposed to, say, Lego Ideas is that with Lego Ideas, the Lego group takes them and they rework them and they turn them into something that is more of a standard Lego product. And with the BrickLink Designer Program, there's very little, I'm not going to say interference, that's the wrong word, there's very little sanding of edges from the Lego group. And that means that you get things from this theme, if it can be called a theme, from this program that you would not get from any other Lego set. And with the case of Ominous Isle, that meant a lot of build techniques that I think would not have flown had an official Lego designer had a go at just kind of making it a little bit easier to put together. But then you also had such exquisite beauty that would not be possible from a traditional Lego set. With Harbormaster's Office, I have to say, as opposed to the Ominous Isle, this one felt a lot more like a traditional Lego set, albeit one of the high-end, more advanced ones for older builders or more experienced builders. And I do think that that is one of the other things that makes this program so interesting, is that each of these sets ends up feeling like such a distinct thing, where to a certain degree with any Lego set, yes, you can kind of see the impact that a particular designer has had on that set working at the Lego group, but they're all fairly standardized in terms of how they approach a lot of build techniques. They're all fairly standardized in a lot of the ways that the Lego is expressed in brick form and how things are kind of presented. With these sets, you get so much more of the personality of each particular designer. And so in the case of Ominous Isle, that set is something that is particularly different, particularly unique, and feels more like a high-end mock, I feel. Whereas this one is really hewing closely to the modular design of buildings. And that's very interesting in and of itself. So we all love a modular building, and the Lego group knows that we all love a modular building, and they don't want to give us too many modular buildings or too many other options for modular buildings, because otherwise modular buildings can kind of overwhelm a program like the BrickLink Designer Program. So the decision was made with Series 6 to not allow any designs for sets that are very clearly intended to fit into a modular cityscape. And that means things like a 32 by 32 base plate on the underneath, that means things like Technic pins in the sides, that means not allowing buildings that open up in this way so that you can get a good look at what's inside. Other strategies can be used instead, and so I get the sense we're probably going to be seeing an awful lot more hinges on buildings that are vaguely similarly sized to this one, but just distinct enough to avoid triggering the problems that the Lego group has said specifically they don't want to run into with these, of them being slightly too much like modular buildings. There have been a few modular-ish buildings that have shown up in various different versions of the BrickLink Designer Program over the years thus far. Long before the current program, we had one that was a modular Lego shop, which was brilliant, and I really wanted to bite the bullet on that, but I couldn't quite justify spending that money, especially given my, if you've seen my previous video on Lego modulars, my attitude of hoarding modular buildings rather than actually putting them together. There's also more recently been the wonderful brick-built train station, which fits very well either with a train track, if you happen to be into Lego trains, or with a modular cityscape. Like, it works in both places, and I do have to say that's absolutely a brilliant looking set. And unfortunately, we're not going to be getting any more that are quite that modular in design, but I've got to say, this one here ticks an awful lot of boxes for fans of modular buildings, because much like the modular building and how it opens up, you can take off the roof, you can take off the top floor, which you can break part of the sign, you can put the sign back together again. You've got that at the top floor, and then underneath here, if I need to put this down in a way where I'm not going to break the staircase. This part then also comes up. You can get a nice good look inside there and see all of the details, and you'll be able to tell from looking at it that this is very, very modular inspired and will fit very well if you happen to be a fan of modular buildings. Just move that seagull that's got away. And then we've got underneath here this floor as well. So you've got those different layers. I don't know if we'll be getting buildings that have this particular structure in future from the BrickLink Designer Program. So definitely this is the most modular-ish of these buildings that we'll be getting for a while, potentially. Some of the other ones in the current series are going to fit better with, say, fans of castles or fans of other different types of of displays, but this is the one that feels like the most modular of the lot. And I have to say, it really nails that aesthetic and the level of detail that you get with these. There is one thing that I've not done in completing this set, because I wanted to show off some details that wouldn't be visible if I had actually put all of the bricks together. You see how I'm taking this floor off? That's not meant to be possible. These are supposed to go down straight onto the pillars underneath. And the reason that I've not connected those is so that I can show you all of the gorgeous detail that is underneath the Harbormaster's office. So if I just carefully put that there. This was not part of the original design for this set, and this is an indication, I think, of just the level of decadence that the BrickLink Designer Program designers are allowed, where apparently they're just given free rein to throw in whatever they want, and normally are given kind of when the process of selecting the sets is done and we move into the stage where they're kind of refined slightly, the designers are apparently just given free rein to like access everything that is in the Lego catalog, anything new that has been added, etc. And so you get stuff like this where it's just absolutely fantastic, the level of detail here. And as I said, this was not part of the original design, so it was not something I was expecting. And when it first started putting this together and I first started seeing all of the wonderful aquatic life down here, I was like, this is brilliant as a set in and of itself. I'd be very happy just with this, because it is just so cool. And you've got things like the big old turtle and a shark and some fish and a scuba diver, and all of that's going on underneath the Harbormaster's office as it exists when it's finished. So you don't even necessarily spot half of this stuff. Like, all credit to Rich Herbert, the designer of this set, because he has made something that is just absolutely beautiful and detailed, and I really love it. And there's only really one downside, as far as I'm concerned, with this set, and that's that I'd have loved some like jumper studs or what have you on the tops of these pillars so that you can then access this floor. Because once I do finally push the whole thing down, it's going to be very difficult to get in there and look at all of these cool details that, as I said, are not necessarily very easy to spot in a lot of the photos for this set that exist on the BrickLink website. But nevertheless, imagine that this floor then attaches onto there. And then you've got some really cool details in here. Lovely minifigure selection. It's a shame that Rich Herbert was not able to use some of the minifigures from Jaws because of skin tone, where they have the human skin tones as opposed to the bright yellow skin tones. But because those characters, I think, just would have fitted in very well. But you can definitely feel like a continuation of the design choices for the Orca with the Lego Ideas Jaws set then into here. And thankfully, we've got characters like parts from, say, the Lighthouse Keeper, and from various other different minifigures that are available across City and Creator 3-in-1, I think, and various different places. So you've got some really cool minifigures in here as well, which are just a nice touch. They're not even really like completely necessary. It's another decadent extra level of fun here, but it's just wonderful. And then you put the whole thing together bit by bit by bit, and it's going to work very well, I think, for basically anybody's needs. If you are a fan of modular buildings, this is going to work very well in a modular city. If you are a fan of those aquatic / harbour sets, like Jaws, like the Lighthouse, like going back a few years, the shack that they made, even the set like the Ship in a Bottle Lego Idea set, I think will all work very well with this. It's the kind of thing that I think the Lego Group should be making more of. Because if there's one thing that you've spotted, or at least I've spotted from a lot of these fan-submitted designs, it's that fans keep saying, we want more aquatic sets, we want more sets that show off like boats and boating and everything to do with that. And the Lego Group says, yeah, sure, here you go, you can have one, you can have two. And then people keep saying, no, 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 we want more, can we have more, please? And so definitely, if you are a fan of these kinds of sets, if you've got the Lighthouse, if you've got the Orca, if you've got these kinds of things, this is going to fit so well with those. And if you've not got any of those, but you've got modular buildings instead, I would say that this is going to work very well with that as well. Now, if you were looking at this set and thinking, now, hang on a second, wasn't there supposed to be a boat with it as well? Why, yes, there is, and it is a delightful little boat too. Wonderful use of lovely circular elements here to kind of show off like the ripple of the water around the boat, and then the boat itself is suspended on some transparent pieces in order to just have it at the right level for the actual dock and the jetty here. That said, this is a relatively small boat, and I definitely think that there is scope to have the Orca alongside this and have that moored up at the side here, because that will just work very, very well in a display. Now, I will say that, as with Ominous Isle, I feel like there are elements of this set that if an official LEGO employee had gone over this and just tried to smooth out some of the edges, they would have reinforced and made a little bit sturdier. So there are some elements that are a little bit flimsy, a little bit fragile and easily broken, particularly a lot of the barriers around the dock and on the jetty or the pier or what have you. I think I'm showing my nautical ignorance here and just throwing out words that are vaguely relevant. But a lot of these bits with these wooden slats are a little bit flimsy and easily broken off. If you're just putting this thing on display and leaving it, that's not necessarily going to be a problem. I think certainly this one is a lot, in many ways, sturdier than Ominous Isle, and as said, a lot of this is going to depend from set to set based on what a particular LEGO fan designer has actually opted for in terms of how they have constructed their sets. So there's some other ones in this series, like Lost City, for example, that I think probably, just based on what I've seen of it, looks like it's going to be one that's going to be a little bit more delicate. And then you've got others like the camper van, which I think is just going to be a little bit sturdier. It does depend on the way that these sets are constructed, and I do absolutely love that, because it means that we get so many different styles of designs and sets that are going to meet various different needs. And so just so long as you are aware going into these sets that you are going to be getting something that will have a bit more personality than your standard LEGO set, I think you're going to have an absolutely great time. As far as I'm concerned, hard recommend for this set, for all of the BrickLink Designer Program sets, but having only built this one myself, absolutely hard recommend. I adore this. I think it is brilliant. It is going to be one of my favourite sets to put on display, just like Ominous Isle is one of my favourites to have on display as well. It just adds so much more character and dynamism and unique flavour to my collection of LEGO sets, and that is really brilliant. But at the same time, as said, I think it works very well alongside modular buildings, alongside other nautical sets. There's so many different options for it. I have nothing negative to say about this set, with the exception of that I wish I could get in here and look at some of the cooler details a little bit easier. Like, that's the only thing that I think this set falls down on. And if the only thing that a LEGO set falls down on is that it's a little bit difficult to see some of the other really cool stuff that I wasn't expecting, then that means that this is a very good LEGO set. Absolutely. I also want to point out that I genuinely appreciate where the LEGO Group has priced some of these sets. This set comes in at £160, £159.99 in the United Kingdom, which for a set of this size and this detail, and bearing in mind that it is crowdfunded and small run, that doesn't feel extortionate. That feels an awful lot better than certain Star Wars sets that I can think of. For example, coming back to the Jaws LEGO set, this thing has 1,000 pieces more than the LEGO Ideas Jaws set, and yet only costs £30 more. So this is a pretty good deal, even when you don't factor in the fact that the LEGO Group is not making many of these and that this is a special run. It's just phenomenally priced, considering just how much you've got in here. So to a certain degree, especially when you factor in that these sets are going to go for so much more money when they hit the aftermarket after they've been released and people suddenly realise, oh, I want that set, but I can't buy it unless I pay way too much money from a scalper. Getting this thing when it is available for pre-order is going to be a bit of a steal. So to recap, this is Harbormaster's Office. It is one of 5 LEGO sets that are part of Series 3 of the BrickLink Designer Program. They will go on sale on the 8th of October 2024 at 8 AM Pacific time. So you're going to need to figure out what that is depending on your personal region. It's mid-afternoon in the United Kingdom. That means that you will have to get in there quick if you want some of these sets, because some of them will sell out very quickly once they hit that 10,000 unit limit. Others will be available until the 31st of October, but if you snooze, you lose with a lot of these. So if you have one that you do definitely want, I would recommend picking it up sooner rather than later. You then have pre-ordered it. It will start shipping in March of 2025. Some of them will come in later than that, depending on where you happen to live around the world. I think there have been some certain delays with the initial few BrickLink Designer Program sets, just in some regions, I think certainly around Asia, where it's just there's logistics in actually sending these things out. But when you get them, I can't speak to, this is something else that I should mention, I cannot speak to the quality of the boxing, the packaging, and the instructions, because what I had was a very early version of this, because all of that stuff is still being designed and finalized at this point. But what I can say is, in terms of the build itself, you are going to have such a good time with this one, and I heartily recommend it, especially if you're a fan of modulars and you want something wet on the side of it, or you're a fan of something wet and you want something modular on the side of that. So definitely look at picking this one up. Otherwise, if you're going to be making any lego.com purchases in the near future as opposed to on BrickLink, make sure that you use the affiliate link which is down in the description, or the QR code that is currently on screen, which takes you straight to the Lego website. You can make your purchase and then we get a little bit of the percentage of your sale. It doesn't cost you a penny extra, but it helps to keep the lights on at Brick Fanatics. Otherwise, do all of the rest of the YouTube things. Give this video a thumbs up and hit subscribe and the notification bell. Let us know your thoughts on Harbormaster's Office and the rest of the BrickLink Designer Program Series 3 sets in the comments down below, and go to brickfanatics.com so that you can read all about our various coverage of BrickLink Designer Program and Lego in general, and make sure that you sign up to our newsletter so that you never miss anything Lego related ever again. And I think that that's me done for this video. Thank you very much for watching and have a lovely day.